What's up guys, Smalls here with 9 to 5 Mac, and if you're a fan of good ideas, be sure to subscribe to the channel for future content like this. We're just a few weeks away from the official reveal of the new iPhone 14, iPhone 14 Max, iPhone 14 Pro, and iPhone 14 Pro Max. That's a lot of words. Today we're going to be doing pretty much an overview of all the most substantial features of these new iPhones based on leaks, just so you can get an idea of whether you should be lining up to buy one of these things virtually or in person, I guess. For a lot of people, a newer design alone could be a justification to upgrade to the new iPhone, so let's dive into what exactly is going to be changed across the lineup aesthetically. But first, let's just reiterate the fact that the iPhone mini is getting scrapped this year, and instead Apple's introducing a larger screen, non-Pro iPhone, and that'll be called the iPhone 14 Max. So you'll have the 6.1-inch iPhone 14, a 6.7-inch iPhone 14 Max, a 6.1-inch iPhone 14 Pro, and then a 6.7-inch iPhone 14 Pro Max. The design of the 14 and 14 Max are more or less going to be exactly the same as this year. Same notch on the front, same camera bump on the back. They're going to be identical. And so the only way you're going to get a different looking iPhone is if you go for one of the Pro models. This year, the Pro models are going to have the same design on the back, but there's now going to be more screen real estate on the front due to the removal of the notch in favor of this pill plus circle cutout thingy. And if you've seen other modern Android smartphones, then you should be familiar with how this is supposed to look, but outside of that, it's basically going to look the same. So the design is definitely not going to be the biggest marketing point for this iPhone this year, at least it shouldn't be. But at the same time, you know how Apple is. Remember how with the iPhone 12 Pro, they were flexing 5G just like so hard, and no one really cares about that. In terms of performance, this year Apple's going to be doing something different with the iPhone lineup that they've pretty much never done before, and that's releasing half of the lineup with the same processor as the current iPhone 13 models. So the 14 and 14 Max will have the same A15 processor that's found in the iPhone 13 lineup, and the 14 Pro and Pro Max will get the new A16 chip, which we don't expect to be substantially more powerful, honestly. So bottom line, you shouldn't really have any massive expectations as far as performance gains in the regular 14 models, since the chip will stay the same. But I personally haven't thought about the speed of an iPhone for a while now, especially now that the Pro models have 120Hz displays. There are honestly more important aspects of the iPhone that Apple could innovate upon. And that brings us to the Lightning port. It was rumored for a while that the iPhone would be getting a USB-C port this year, which is what most people want. And I do think there's still a chance for that to happen in the future, but unfortunately, that future is not this upcoming month. The new iPhones will retain Lightning, but the silver lining here is that allegedly this Lightning port will be based on USB 3.0 instead of USB 2.0, which is currently on the iPhone lineup, and an absolutely ancient piece of software in comparison to everything else this phone has got going for it. I think the iPhones might be one of the most expensive mobile products currently in existence that's still being produced with a USB 2.0 port. The word on the street is that the Pro models will get a revised Lightning port that supports substantially higher transfer speeds due to USB 3.0. And to be honest, a part of me feels like with all the wireless solutions that you've got now within the Apple ecosystem, AirDrop and things of that nature, that USB 3.0 isn't truly necessary at this point in terms of everyday use. But there's a particular feature that's rumored to be coming to the camera system that, if true, will definitely require the need for a faster file transfer solution. The Pro models are rumored to be getting a 48 megapixel camera upgrade, which is a massive sensor bump over the 12 megapixel sensor in the current models. And one of the main reasons for this alleged upgrade is to support 8K video recording in the Pro models. And this wouldn't be a first for a smartphone, because Samsung introduced 8K video recording a few years ago, but this would be a first for an Apple smartphone or an Apple device period, and it would be introducing an entirely new consumer demographic to 8K video recording. 8K video files are not going to be small, and so having a faster port for transferring files is going to be a necessity. I think the ProRes video recording capability that we got in the new iPhones was proof of that AirDrop is just not going to work, and the slow USB 2.0 is not going to work for transferring files to a computer. As far as the usefulness of 8K video recording on the iPhone, well, I think we're going to have to wait and see how Apple decides to utilize that functionality, but you can expect sharper, more detailed looking footage, which will allow you to lose less detail when cropping in on your footage. Also, according to analysts, there's also big changes to expect for the front-facing camera across the entire iPhone 14 lineup. There aren't any technical details currently on what those upgrades are, but I would be guessing that there's going to be a major sensor slash autofocus upgrade to the front-facing camera. Apple's known to flex a lot of software software-based camera features, so I could imagine Apple introducing something like individual face tracking for the front-facing camera. Some people also may be thinking that Apple could introduce center stage to the iPhone properly, but I feel like that's a feature that they'll probably want to reserve for their iPads and Studio Display. But I wouldn't count it out completely, especially given the fact that you can now use center stage with the back camera when connected to your MacBook when using the iPhone as a camera. That's a feature coming to macOS Ventura later this fall. Early on, there were rumors that Touch ID was making a return to the iPhone lineup, and that got a lot of people excited, as there's still a huge portion of the Apple user base that prefers Touch ID to Face ID. And when you consider the fact that Apple's implemented the Touch ID into the power button of products like the iPad Air, you'd figure that they could just do the same thing for the iPhone. And technically, I believe they can, but according to sources, this isn't going to be happening. And I always thought that was wishful thinking to believe we'd be getting both Face ID and Touch ID in the iPhone, simply because it's kind of just too good to be true, right? But thankfully, Face ID has gotten a lot better over the years with mass support, and if you wear an Apple Watch, you can use that to authenticate certain actions or unlock your iPhone or Mac. There are a decent amount of workarounds. As far as color options, we expect the iPhone 14 and 14 Max to have the same color options as the 13, except for a new purple color, which will allegedly replace the current pink iPhone 13. And on the Pro side of things, we expect the exact same color options, except for a purple color that will reportedly replace the Sierra blue color options on the Pro lineup. So Apple is clearly feeling purple this year. If you've been keeping up with the iOS 16 beta, then you might know that this year's iOS update is going to feature widgets on the lock screen. These widgets can include the weather, your activity rings, reminders, and things like that. And many sources believe that this is a part of Apple's plan to introduce an always-on display feature for the iPhone 14. And thanks to these OLED displays we've got on the iPhones, this feature should work perfectly. An always-on display is something that pretty much every other smartphone manufacturer has been doing for years at this point, so Apple is pretty much the last to this party. But in typical Apple style, I imagine that they'll innovate on this dated feature in a way that others haven't before, or at least that's the hope. And that's something I'm definitely looking forward to. On the iPhone 14 and 14 Max, we expect to get these same storage options this time around, so they'll come with a base storage of 128 and have 256 and 512 gigabyte options. But there have been rumors that the Pro models will come with a base of 256 gigabytes of storage this time around. And I think this is to help soften a blow on a price increase, which I am very sad to report on. Apple's reportedly going to raise the price of the iPhone 14 Pro and Pro Max by $100. So the Pro will start at $1,100 and the Pro Max will start at $1,200. And this one's a really hard pill to swallow. $1,200 is literally the same cost as a brand new MacBook Air with M2. So $1,200 at Apple either gets you a base iPhone 14 Pro Max or a base M2 MacBook Air. And that's just hard to fathom, honestly. We've got this recession going on, gas prices are slightly better, but still kind of suck, and Apple's just sparing us no mercy, and now we must pay even more money for their smartphones this year. At least that's the current rumor a lot of sources are corroborating. All I really have to say is that I kind of hate where this trend is going, and I sincerely hope that this is the last price increase on the iPhones for a long time, because I honestly don't think the current rumored features justify a price increase at all. As far as battery size and capacity, it is rumored that the iPhone 14 lineup will have a slightly larger battery over the 13 lineup, except for the 14 Pro Max, which is rumored to have a slightly smaller battery this time around. Now that there isn't a mini iPhone in the lineup, I'm not too concerned about battery performance because I think the 13s were fine, and given the fact that the milliamp hour capacity is only going up by 50 to 100 milliamp hours depending on the model, I wouldn't expect vastly different battery performance compared to the 13s. According to Bloomberg, these new iPhones should be announced on September 7th in a virtual event, with the release happening a little over a week later. And so I think if you were planning on going for the 14 or 14 Max, there aren't really a whole lot of changes to be had over the 13. And so I think the only reason you would want to go for the regular 14 is if you have the Max variant, which never existed before. And this is for people who already own one of the 13s. If you're coming from an 11 or a 10S or something like that, this is an entirely different story. The Pro models this year are going to be a lot more interesting as far as new features, in my opinion, and a new price, which I'm kind of bummed out about. But there's always a few things that Apple reveals at this event that was never in the rumor mill. But so far, I think I can tell which iPhones are going to be getting the most buzz this year. But let me know what you guys think about the upcoming iPhones and all the new features we should expect down in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for future content like this, because we're going to have all the reviews, comparisons, all that great stuff when the devices are launched. So thank you all for watching, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.